Do we have any announcements? Looks like Mr. Ashby has something to say.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, I just thought I'd be available to you if you have questions about what happened yesterday. I don't know all the details. I'm not the finance director, but I can answer some of the questions if there are any.
I was gonna ask you to run through all those numbers again.
I'll send you the link to the
Yeah, there you
video.
Turn on your microphone. Microphone. We're on the record.
So anyway, most of you were there. I think all of the four of you here were at the meeting. And so, again, if you have any questions, please contact me, and I'm happy to work with the finance director and Ozzy, who did the consultant who did our analysis. We're going to start seeing those analysis coming forward. I would just caution as we use those. I've cautioned this before that it is one piece of a puzzle, and we developed a city based on lots of different criteria, not just each individual project costing out. And you'll see an example of that one tonight, a school. Right? It doesn't cost out for the city, right? But it's beneficial to the community as a whole. So again, available for answers to any questions you have. Please give me a call or email me.
Thank you. Okay, have you guys had a chance to look at the minutes?
Well, they work for me, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Steve, second by Adam to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I heard Michelle, yay. Okay, minutes are approved. Report on council actions. Oh my goodness, we got Matt here.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, essentially the council was right in the middle of all of what was going on with the state legislation coming forward when their meeting took place, and so they continued everything to another date. So we are holding a special meeting next week, June 14th, or excuse me, not next week, but June 14th is when we're holding those and addressing those same meeting items, all the public hearings that night.
Okay, thank you. All righty, business item number 1. Miss Christie.
Okay. Can you hit the, oh, there we go, marked it, okay. All right, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The action requested from you tonight is the approval or denial of the final plat for Heartland Subdivision Number 3. This project is located east of Northside Boulevard and north of Eustic Road. The annexation and zoning to RS7 was approved in August of 2014. The preliminary plat was approved in November of 2017. Phase 1 is recorded, and Phase 2 was approved in November of 2020. It is located inside the city limits. It is zoned RS7. It is bordered on the north by Canyon County property and on the south by other phases of this subdivision. On the west by city RS 8.5 zoned property that is currently vacant, and on the east by East Canyon Elementary School in Canyon County. So the plat itself is 51 lots that are made up of 10 common lots and 41 buildable lots on 14.8 acres. So the findings are that it is inside the city limits, zoned RS7. It conforms to the approved preliminary plat layout, and it conforms to the applicable subdivision and zoning standards for Nampa. So should you choose to approve this, here are your potential motions.
Any questions for Christie?
Madam Chair, I'll move that we recommend to City Council approval for the final plat of the Heartland subdivision number 3, including 41 buildable lots, 10 common lots on 14.8 acres, zoned RS 7, located at 0 Northside Boulevard, for Dan Lardy, engineer representing Tradition Capital Partners, LLC, with all conditions of staff.
Second.
Okay, motion by Jeff, seconded by Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Did Michelle get her vote? Aye. Oh, there she is. Thank you. All right, that's approved. Okay, public hearing item, or business item number 2.
So thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The action item requested from you tonight is the recommendation of approval or denial of the final plat for Sunnyvale subdivision number 4. This project is located south of Karcher and east of North Middleton Road. The annexation and zoning with the development agreement and the preliminary plat were all approved in 2006. A rezone to distribute existing zoning over that acreage was approved in December of 2013. Phases 1 and 2 of Sunnyvale are recorded, and Phase 3 was approved in September of 2020. This phase is surrounded by the other phases of this subdivision on the north, south, and east, and by Canyon County property on the west. This phase proposes 95 lots. It includes 17 common lots and 78 buildable lots. So it is zoned RS6. It does conform to the preliminary plat layout that was approved, and it conforms to the applicable subdivision and zoning standards for Nampa. Any conditions, should you choose to approve this, are listed in your staff report. And there are your potential motions, should you choose to approve it. I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Christie?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we move to recommend to City Council approval of the final plat for Sunnyvale subdivision number 4, including 78 buildable lots and 17 common lots on 22.27 acres on an RS6 property at 0 Flamingo Avenue for Kent Brown planner representing Hoff Companies, owner, with all conditions of approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Matt, seconded by Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public, or business item number 3. I'll be all ready for public hearing when we get there.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, Doug Critchfield, Nampa Planning and Zoning. The action item before you this evening is the final plat approval or denial for Henry's Place subdivision that's located at 0 and 406 West Dooley Lane, west of 12th Avenue Road. The site is located in an RS6 zoning district, and it's surrounded on the northwest and south by RS6 zoning, and on the east it is enclaved. The history on this project is that it was annexed and zoned to RS6, and that was approved by City Council on August 3rd, 2020. And the preliminary plat was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission on March 23rd, 2021. The specific information on this parcel, it's 1.83 acres. There's 8 buildable lots and 3 common lots with a gross density of 3.67 dwelling units per acre. The findings of fact on this project is that it is within city limits zoned RS6. It conforms to the approved preliminary plat, and it conforms to applicable subdivision and zoning standards. So the requested action this evening is before you with all recommendations, staff recommended conditions and any other conditions that may be levied by the commission.
You guys have any questions?
No, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we recommend the city council's final plat approval for Henry's Place subdivision in an RS6 zoning district for 8 single-family lots, 3 common lots with 3.67 gross, located at 406 and 0 West Dooley Lane on 2.18 acres, for Mason and Associates Incorporated, representing J. Keen Enterprises, with conditions of staff.
Second.
Okay, motion by Jeff, seconded by Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, public hearing will start at 7, and I think we're going to have a lot of people testifying for number 2, and I'll just kind of go over this with you real quick. The applicant will go and say what they're going to say about what they want to do, and then the city staff will give their report, and then we open up the public hearing for testimony. And you'll have 3 minutes to tell us if you're for, against, or undecided, address questions to the commission, and we will ask the applicant at the end to address any questions that you guys may have. And if you agree with what the person in front of you said, you don't have to come up and repeat the whole thing all over again. You can just say, I agree with that, the prior person, and we'll make sure it's on the record that way. And then once public testimony is closed, we'll deliberate and we'll decide. But it will go on to city council, so it will be advertised again, and there will be public testimony at city council. If it is approved with this body, it has to go to the city council, just so you guys know how it works. But we'll be waiting till 7 o'clock to start public hearing.
Well, there's,
Right, and if we say it's not approved, it still goes to city council. They can override us, so.
This came for the business items?
Did I scare them away?
Yeah, maybe.
We do have sign-up sheets at the table in the back. If you want to testify, you can sign up on that sheet, or if you don't want to testify and just be on the record for or against, you can just put your name and address on there and say, I do not wish to speak. This is a different hearing, so if you want to speak today, you have to sign up on the sheets back there. This is planning and zoning. That's one of the items on our agenda. So you need to, if you want to speak, you need to sign up on the sheet for that public hearing item, which I think is item number 2.
Oh, my gosh.
procedure one more time since we have had a few more people show up. So the applicant gives their testimony, then the staff does their testimony, and then it's opened up to public hearing for you to talk for up to 3 minutes and say why you're for, against, or undecided, address questions to us so that we can ask the applicant, and then we will bring the applicant back up to answer any questions. We will close public hearing and we will deliberate. If it's something that goes to city council, then there will be another public hearing. You'll have another chance to testify at that point. So if we approve something in this body, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be approved by city council and vice versa. So if it's something that you believe in, you need to go to the city council meeting as well. Okay, public hearing item number 1. Do we have the applicant? Come on down.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi.
Give us your name and address for the record and tell us what you want to do.
Yeah, so my name is Ken Moore. Address is 707 Davis Avenue, Nampa. We want to split and put in 4 single-family residences, just 3 houses, right across from the park. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's that.
All right, well, we'll have staff give their report, and we may have some questions for you when we're done.
perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Parker Bodley, Associate Planner. The action requested from you tonight. The action. Good? Good. The action requested from you tonight is the zoning map approval from RA to RS6 and a short plat approval for Lions View Estate subdivision at 707 Davis Ave for 4 single-family detached homes, gross density of 3.85. The property is currently within the city. The future land use map has it designated as medium-density residential. Surrounding land uses and zoning, RS6 to the north being Lions Park, RS6 to the south, and that's Smith Avenue Hideaway subdivision. Those are duplexes. To the east is RS6, single-family homes, and to the west is RS6, also single-family homes. The utility and emergency services are and can be made available. The closest fire station is 1.6 miles away, a response time of 4 minutes. The development would increase personnel by 0.015 firefighters. The closest police department is 1.4 miles away, and they receive, in this reporting district, 1,253 calls annually, increase of 0.02 officers and 0.01 staff. This is a bird's eye view of the property, extending all the way to back there, and the single-family home in the front. Regarding rezones, these are the conclusions of law that you must find for approval, that it be in harmony with the comprehensive plan, that the proposed use or set of uses would be at least reasonably compatible with the adjoining properties. The change in land on the land use map would establish an area of zoning the same or is compatible with immediately adjoining districts, would not create a spot zone, and would be in the interest of the public. Regarding the short plat, the overall site area is 1.04 acres. The total lots would be 5 with 0 common lots. Here is the proposed landscape plan on the left. And on the right side is the preliminary plat showing the existing home and the existing structures. The home would stay in place. The proposed structures would have to be moved as they're on top of the proposed property line. Correspondence, building department requires that they be subject to Title IV. Construction plan, drawings to include grading plan, drainage plan for individual lots. They stated as I had said before, the large accessory structure will either need to be moved or demolished because it encroaches on the proposed property line. Nampa School District suggests the development of sidewalks and street lighting along the frontage. And I believe the engineering that condition will be in the conditions, recommended conditions. Engineering division, their standard engineering comments. They'll require an erosion control permit prior to the start of any earth disturbing activities. Regarding the rezone, the development is surrounded by residential uses. There's a city park across the street. The accessory structures would need to be moved. The comprehensive plan has it designated as medium density residential. This development is proposing 3.85 dwelling units an acre, which fits in the medium density residential requirement. Nampa has determined that it's in the public interest to provide single-family residential development opportunities. The environmental impact study isn't required unless stated by engineering, which they haven't required in this case. Safe routes to school, Nampa High School is 2.7 miles away. Lone Star Middle School is 2 miles away. Willow Creek Elementary is 0.9 miles away, which is within walking distance. It's important to note that there's stretches of Smith Avenue without sidewalks, so the walkability is questionable. But regarding the short plat, all standards building lots meet or exceed the 6,000 square foot requirement, the smallest being 7,000 square feet. Lot averaging doesn't apply to short plats, neither does lot compatibility. All the lots have the required width and depth. They will be required to dedicate 40 feet from section line of Davis Avenue. Landscaping plan was submitted and it appears to be acceptable. There's no proposed open space or pathways. The conditions of approval are those in your staff report, as well as any of those that you would like to add. And there are 2 motions for you tonight, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Parker?
Yeah, quick question, Parker, more for clarification, but in the conditions, you had mentioned the suggestion of streetlights and sidewalk improvements. Is that included in the Nampa subdivision improvement agreement? Is that where that's located?
They will be, condition number 4, frontage improvements will be required for the development.
Okay, so that's where the streetlights and sidewalks are,
Correct.
okay.
Okay. Open public hearing. I have the sign-up sheet from the back. I have nobody signed up for. I have Jane Robinson as against, but does not wish to speak. And you can change your mind if you want, and then nobody else is on there. Is there anybody present that would like to speak on this proposal?
I'm Jane Robinson.
Come on down. Give us your name and address for the record.
Jane Robinson, and my address is 179 North Horton, which is right across from the park and just down from Davis Avenue. My question is, when we received these and in the mail, my question was, I didn't see what's the proposal for the roads going into that subdivision? Is there a plat for that, something that I can see? And can you kind of point it out? So the road is going to be coming off Davis Avenue back into,
I believe so. Parker, do
Would you
you?
like me to respond?
Yes, please.
The easement will be on the west side of the subdivision. The front house has access from Purple Sage to the right. On the rest of the houses will take access from this road that goes up the west side of the lot. Sorry, not road. It's a private shared drive.
a private shared drive. This is all new to me, but I've lived in that home for 47 years. And right now, my main concern is the amount of traffic that we already are experiencing on Davis Avenue, on North Horton, and through that park. And there are no sidewalks, and there's very limited street lighting. And this will add to that traffic. Plus, if they're families, it will add children, possibly. And right now, it is very. I'm probably one of the 1,000 calls to the police department because I understand they're understaffed, so they can't come out and patrol as much as they probably should. And we have people that go down from Nampa Christian, down North Horton to Davis Avenue, will run that stop sign, and they're doing probably 50, 60 miles an hour from Orchard down North Horton to Davis. So these are some of my concerns if you're adding more homes in that area. And I would like to see some study done or something so we can have a safer neighborhood. And I don't really see anything other than a proposal maybe having sidewalks and additional street lighting. I would like to see a more firm answer to that
Okay,
or look into.
all right,
And that's all.
thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to testify? So Parker, for the improvements, was part of the conditions was sidewalk and street light, correct? That was part of their,
They'll, Madam Chair, they will be required to do the frontage improvements on that lot. They wouldn't be required to do it on the whole street.
right, just in front of their property.
Correct.
And is it going to be a private road?
It is a private drive.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Does anybody want him to come back up?
I don't think so.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Matt,
I'll second.
second by Adam, to close public hearing. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I think it's a good little infill.
And because I agree, Madam Chair, I would recommend, I'd like to recommend to City Council approval of zoning map amendment for RA to RS6 for Lions View Estate subdivision at 707 Davis Avenue for a single-family 4 detached dwelling units, gross density of 3.85, net density of 5.21, for Kenneth B. Moore with all conditions listed in the staff report.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Steve, second by Adam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And Madam Chair, make a motion for the approval of the short plat for Lions View Estate subdivision at 707 Davis Avenue for the same 4 single-family homes, detached dwelling units for the gross density of 3.85, net density of 5.21, for Kenneth Moore with all conditions listed in the staff report.
I'll second that as well.
Okay, another motion by Steve and second by Adam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, public hearing item number 2. Do we have the applicant here? Come on up.
Pictures.
Jeff Hatch with Hatch Design Architecture. My address is 5119 Briarcrest Drive, Nampa, Idaho, 83686. Good evening, Chair Selman and Commissioners. Thank you for your consideration for our application this evening. So our proposed application, I guess, let's kind of starts at an interesting mixed-use RP zone in western Nampa. When the property owner came to us and presented a project, the RP zone lends itself to about 122 units per acre. It wants a fairly dense product, something that you could do in 8-plex and 4-plex units and townhomes, and it's something that, working with staff, we could do without going through the entitlement process. We felt that that was not prudent for Carriage Hill and the neighborhood around us, let alone the city of Nampa. And so the hearing before us today is a choice. It's something that we've chosen to do and present to the general public and to the city of Nampa for consideration of something that we feel is more appropriate for this area. So the proposed project would be to reduce the density from 122 units down to about 66, which we find to be much more prudent for this area. It's just approximate reduction of about 46% of the density that's allowed on this zoning. There's been a range of commentary that you'll see in your staff report, and so to help itemize very clear and precise response to many of the neighbors' concerns, we went ahead and kind of broke those down into a couple different categories, which I'd like to respond to. There's concern for density, which what we're considering proposing is about half the density that's allowed on the property. So I think we've responded to that fairly substantially. In addition, Nampa school districts in their report have no concerns about the capacity for their schools, which I think is also very important and prudent. As far as livability, the proposed development that we have is proposing 2 community gardens, a playground, walking paths, and open space, and we're also going to be tiling the canal to allow that to be additional open space and landscaped area, which is not counted towards our open space requirement. As far as traffic congestion and speed, the traffic impact study is not warranted for this project in accordance with the Nampa engineering policy as outlined in the staff report.
I need the gallery to maintain quiet until it is your turn to speak, or we will ask you to leave.
Infrastructure concerns were also brought forth, and in the staff report it says that the city's water, sewer, and pressurized systems have adequate capacity to serve this property. There were concerns for property value and crime, and we feel that the density that we're proposing, the quality of product that we're proposing versus what the RP could allow is substantially more valuable for the value and concerns for crime. Concern for open space, we are meeting the required open space allowed for this development and exceeding it slightly in percentage. But in addition, as mentioned, the easement on the canal allows for additional open space that's not calculated towards that, but is actually perceived and realized open space. Schools will be crowded. Again, the staff report mentions the Nampa School District has no concerns about the capacity of their schools. There were concerns about Beaverton Road needing improvements, and part of the conditions of approval are to do improvements on Beaverton Road, which we are in agreement with. The project isn't compatible with the high-end custom homes in the area. We feel that lowering the density and raising the quality of craftsmanship would better accommodate the neighbors and be a more prudent neighbor to this community. Overflow parking issues. With the proposed garages and on-street parking, we are more than meeting the requirement. And last concern was that the neighborhood services, i.e. gas stations and grocery stores, were not close by. which in analysis, we were able to find the chevron, which is directly to the east, which is about a half mile away. So as mentioned previously, this is the purple zone out here, and it's intended to have a mixed-use quality to it. And we feel that we've achieved a mixed-use quality in a manner that is more digestible to this community in this area. So the potential site and working in discussions with staff, we could be proposing something that includes 4plexes and 8plex townhome development with a 10% commercial component to the frontage, but the majority of it's going to be more of a compact townhome development. And so in comparison with that, what we've done is reduce that density by about half, as we've said. We're proposing some single-family dwellings, as well as some duplex dwellings. We don't have any 4plex, we don't have any 12plex. We're doing this in a manner that allows for a complement of that density that the city was desiring, but in a way that we feel is much more prudent and appropriate for this location. With that, you'll see, let's see, it points, but it doesn't point.
Pointer doesn't work.
So we have 2 community gardens, which are the kind of ghosted blue areas along the sidewalk. So from the public sidewalk along Iowa, we would be proposing a walking path along that canal that we're tiling in and landscaping. So we got the vegetation of that. And then from there, you can depart into a couple of these community garden spaces. And so you have a little bit of respite in that area. We also have a localized playground area that is proposed. And then, you know, the landscaping of that canal also enhances and creates kind of a nice buffer to the north. So a little blow up of the concept we have for those community gardens is you have kind of a series of little benches, planting opportunities that you can meander throughout those spaces and then get back on that walking path and, you know, go along the community. So with that, we have, you know, some different concepts for seating, for benches, for kind of elements of play with that garden space. And then with the playground, we have kind of a proposed concept for both, you know, playground itself and then also kind of an isolated, localized area where you could have kids on scooters or on, you know, kind of wagons and things where they can kind of move around in a safe environment with their friends. What we found with a lot of these communities environments is if you don't have elements of movement and motion within your playgrounds, they tend to go to the street and use the streets, and you have concerns for safety and concern. And so we felt that something of that nature would be very helpful for this community and fairly dynamic. So unlike the 4plex, 12plex, 8plex stuff that we were showing earlier, our property owner has the intent to do something that is complementary to many of the homes and neighborhoods around us. Even, you know, working with them to come up with concepts that for the combined dwellings look like essentially large homes versus more of an apartment style or townhome style living. So with that, looking at the criteria for that rezone request, the amendment for harmony in this space, and we feel that reducing that density and being sensitive to the neighbors by, you know, basically you're cutting what we could build in half is a fairly drastic consideration for trying to be harmonious. As far as the proposed uses, you know, the RP zone complements dwellings. We're proposing dwellings, but we feel that the nature of these dwellings, the quality that we're proposing are substantially more compatible with the neighborhood and the area. As far as the change of use in land, currently this is what, you know, we would consider this to be a spot zoning. It's in an island of kind of a medium density, and this is kind of its own animal. And so with that, we're treating it as its own entity as the city wanted, but we're trying to blend that back into that zone around it. And with that, we feel that the townhomes and single-family dwellings that we've designed and constructed have a craftsmanship that is similar in nature to the homes around it. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions?
Got a question on the canal. Is you're considering the canal as open space? The canal bank?
For the required definition of open space, that does not count towards our open space.
Okay, I thought I heard you say that you were including that as part of the open space. My question is that even usable? I mean, is that canal, that's the Thacker lateral, or so, it's not a irrigation owned by Nampa or whatever, where the access is limited, right?
So as mentioned in our kind of itemized neighbor concerns, the proposed project contains a little bit more than 5% open space. But in addition to that, the easement over the canal, which is not included in that calculation of 5%, will be tiled and will be landscaped. We can't put trees in that, but we can put landscaping, vegetation, shrubs, things that the irrigation company deems appropriate to enhance that and not leave it as just kind of an open ditch that could be a safety concern.
All right, thank you. And then mixed use, I was going to stop you when you mentioned mixed use, but I didn't. Could you explain that a little bit more, what the mixed use is in this development?
So in the RP zone, which we are not proposing, the RP zone has a 10% commercial component to that fourplex, eightplex townhome concept that is allowed without this public hearing process. What this rezone does is allows us to propose lower density, but just do it under the residential RS3 like the balance of the zoning around us has.
Okay, so for someone who doesn't know then what that means, mixed use, when you say that, would mean, are you going to have a commercial? Is there going to be some other different uses in that? But it's just residential, right?
Correct.
Is what you're
With
putting
this
in there.
request, this rezone request, it would
In
have
this
that.
request, yeah, I get that part. I just didn't know if there was, it's just residential.
Yes. If we were going to abide by the mixed use, we could do commercial with some eightplex, fourplex stuff, a little 10% commercial building of some sort, and we wouldn't need to be standing here today.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, well,
On that rendering that you have out there, could you put that back up on the screen and show me where those parks are that you were talking about?
Yes, sir.
Sure. Okay. Okay, so the kids will be playing with the trikes and so forth in that area. I wanted to make sure it wasn't right on Iowa. Can you show the public approximately those same things?
Christie's doing it now.
okay.
Okay. So just for clarification for the general public, the playground area that's proposed is a centralized area right here.
It's up on the screen with the mouse flicking around there.
Be the centralized area right here. The two community gardens that we are discussing and proposing would be in this location and in this location up here. And Iowa is on the very south. Right there. So the playground is not on Iowa or close to Iowa, nor are these.
Thank you. All right, we'll probably have some questions for you at the end.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Christie.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair and Commissioners, Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. There are multiple requests for you this evening. The first one is annexation and zoning to RS6. The second one is a conditional use permit to allow for 2-unit townhomes. And the third one is the preliminary plat for the Spyglass Ridge subdivision. All of this is on the property that is north of West Iowa Avenue between Midway Road and South Middleton Road. The project is completely surrounded by RS7 zoned property that has been developed as single-family lots. The city's sewer, water, and pressurized irrigation systems have adequate capacity to serve this property, according to the engineering department. So the applicable regulations for annexation are listed in your staff report. The applicable regulations for the zoning application on our map and the change to RS6 is also in your staff report. And then the criteria for approving a conditional use permit is in your staff report. And it does require that you find this project to be compatible with and not adversely affect the livability or appropriate development of abutting properties. That it will provide a convenient and functional living, working, shopping, or civic environment and be as attractive as the nature of the use and its location and setting warrants. And that the proposed duplexes, or townhomes in this case, will enhance the successful operation of the surrounding area in its basic community function. So then there are also some applicable regulations for preliminary plats in Chapter 27 in regards to infill subdivisions. When a subdivision is intended for development in a non-RS4 zone, it qualifies as residential infill. Building lots sized below normal required sizes, which these are not, may be platted throughout said infill subdivision in accordance with the standards listed. So this chapter lists those standards for setbacks, lot sizes, open space requirements, and it outlines all the criteria that qualifies for a residential infill subdivision. So according to the future land use map, this is actually residential mixed use. This project is completely surrounded by the medium-density residential designation, and therefore they have chosen to stretch it onto their property to be compatible with the surrounding designations. The RS zoning district is the appropriate designation for the medium-density residential, and it allows for single-family residential development. So with this attached two-unit product type as townhomes, which would be considered single-family with individual ownership, can be approved through a conditional use permit. The density proposed for Spyglass Ridge is gross density of 7.43 and a net density of 13.17. That 7.43 gross does fit within the 2.51 to 8 dwelling units per acre that is required for the medium density residential designation. Infill is defined in the comp plan as vacant, underutilized, partially used, unannexed, and repurposed land. Infill occurs on undeveloped parcels within the city limits and on unannexed lands or enclaves that are surrounded by annexed land, which this one qualifies for. Generally, these parcels have city utilities and power available or within a close proximity. In Chapter 5 of the comp plan, it outlines goals and objectives for these infill projects. Objective number 2 states, conserve open space and agricultural land while accommodating growth and protecting property rights. Strategy number 1, prioritize infill development and redevelopment. And strategy number 2, identify areas in the area of impact that can implement smart growth principles, planned unit developments, transit-oriented developments, and master plan communities with mixed-use elements. So through a year-long process to update our comprehensive plan, NAMPA has determined that it is within the public interest to provide varying residential housing opportunities, and the current real estate market has a pressing need for additional housing inventory. The Safe Routes to School analysis on this is Nampa High School is approximately 2.7 miles away. Lone Star Middle School is approximately 1.7 miles away. Owyhee Elementary School is 0.8 miles away. Owyhee would be the only one within walking distance, and there are gaps in the sidewalks between here and there. The Compass analysis, the housing to job ratio indicates that more employment is needed in this area. That with this particular piece of property, no farmland is being consumed, and there is 368 acres of farmland existing within a mile. The nearest bus stop is 2.9 miles away, the nearest park is 1.2 miles away, and the nearest grocery store is 1.5 miles away. The plat itself proposes 83 lots. This will include 17 common lots, 14 detached single-family lots, and 52 attached zero-lot line single-family or townhome lots on 8.88 acres. So we did receive a significant amount of public input from the neighbors, as you've seen in your staff report, through emails that were sent out yesterday afternoon, and even the comments that we received today that are in front of you tonight. We also received the standard comments from Nampa Fire, Police, and Engineering. The fire department states that this development could increase demand by 0.198 firefighter positions, and the police department stated that it could increase demand by 0.27 additional officers and 0.09 support staff positions. So should the commission choose to recommend approval to City Council, staff recommends approval with conditions as listed in your staff report. These are conditions that are outlined in the memos that were attached by engineering, to include dedication of right-of-way on Iowa, frontage improvements on Iowa, annexation into the municipal irrigation district, connection to utilities, and street name corrections that were required by the GIS department. So with that, here are your potential motions. The annexation and zoning to RS6, the conditional use permit, which will be a recommendation to City Council because it will go along with the annexation, and then ultimately the preliminary plat based on your other decisions. I will stand for any questions.
Christie, I have some questions concerning traffic. Do you want to handle those, or do you rather have Daniel do it?
Traffic is Daniel's department, thank you.
Good move.
Daniel, traffic seems to be the biggest issue by far from the letters that we received. Can you give us an update on what's happening in the area along Middleton, Midland, Lake Lowell, Iowa?
Okay.
In that area?
Currently, we have a signal under construction at the intersection of Lone Star and Middleton. At Midland and Lake Lowell, we are in process of doing right-of-way acquisition for a signal located there. We have under design at Midland and Iowa a roundabout. At Middleton and Iowa, we do not have any current design work being done at that intersection, though I would anticipate in the next 5 to 10 years that would grow in priority. I don't know specifically what the date would be for that one. And then following at some point, with development down at Greenhurst and Middleton, there would likely be some treatment likely around about at that point, at some point in the future.
When would the roundabout go in approximately?
Which one?
You mentioned only one, I thought.
The Midland and Iowa,
Yeah.
it's currently under designed. It does not have a construction year at this point. I would anticipate that with some of the funding challenges we've had, it would likely be 2 to 3 years out.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff at this time? Okay, we're going to open public hearing. I need the gallery to remain quiet unless you're at the podium speaking for your allotted time. I have a ton of sign-up sheets. We start with those for the proposal. And if you agree with the person in front of you, you don't need to repeat everything that they said. You can just come up and state your name and address for the record and tell us that you agree. Okay, the first person I have is Lee Bradley.
I'm not for it.
You signed up under the for it, so I'll move you to against. Okay.
I didn't read it right.
Okay, then we have. Oh my goodness. No, this is Whitman, the last name. I'm sorry, I can't read it. You live on Saxton Drive. Nobody here wants to claim that. Okay, and then I have one person online that signed up for. Do we have Hannah Samuelson online? No, she didn't come online. Okay, well, she,
Hello, can you hear me?
yes, Hannah, give us your name and address for the record.
I'm here.
Okay, Hannah, give us your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes. Did we lose Hannah?
Hello, I'm sorry. I have no idea what's happening, but can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can. Hannah, give us your name and address for the record, and you have up to 3 minutes to tell us why you're for the proposal.
All right, my name is Hannah Samuelson. My address is 11452 West Rosette Drive in Nampa. So I'm testifying today in favor of item 2, the rezoning of the Iowa Avenue property. I'm a resident of the Carriage Hill North neighborhood off of Iowa Avenue, and I'm here representing my household. As housing prices in this area skyrocket, it becomes harder and harder for Nampa families to find housing. Continuing to zone and support higher density housing developments is a step in the right direction. As a resident of Carriage Hill North, I see no problem with supporting this development, and I hope it helps to alleviate the current strain on the housing market. I fully support the board continuing to zone higher density and mixed-use developments to promote sustainable long-term growth in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Okay. Okay, now we're going to go to those undecided. Jay Johnson. Okay, give your name and address for the record, and you have up to 3 minutes.
My name is J.J. Johnson. I live at 11700 West Buteo Drive in Nampa, Idaho, and that's in Hunters Point. First off, I want to thank you for the opportunity here. I know it's a tough job that you guys have, so thank you for your service. I'm here this evening to address what I feel is reasonable, okay? Understanding that the landowner has a right to sell, and understanding that Mr. Hatch and his representatives, they have a right to be in business, and of course, the city has a right to levy taxes. But what's socially responsible and what's reasonable for all parties, including the residents, all these people here? What's the ethical thing to do? And having a zoning and then changing the zoning when you have the most expensive and affluent neighborhood, and we just saw a neighborhood with Lions Park that is under a medium housing zoning density of 3.5. I did the math. I must have done it a little bit differently. I am an engineer, but I must have done it a little bit differently than you. I divided 62 dwellings into, or 8.5 into 62, and I got 18.4. And when I multiply it by the same people that the city of Nampa uses for their people per dwelling, which is 2.93, I come up with 182 people on that small acreage. And if you look at that, that's almost 3 times of what Hunters Point is for the same amount of people, for the same amount of density. Because if what that allotment should really have is about 2.5 to 3 houses. So you're overloading that acreage. And 22 houses, if you had just low-density housing on the 8.8 acres and built 22 houses on there, like Hunters Point or Carriage Hill, and you multiplied by your loading, your population loading, you'd have 65 people. 182 minus 65, that's a delta of 117 people. That's different. Just on that, and then multiply that by
15 seconds.
how many people that you have. So the concerns on loading is very real with everybody here. And understanding that, we hope that you will do the ethical and the right thing and blend in with Carriage Hill in your blending in with the build. We're not opposed to it.
Okay, your time is up, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, I thank you.
All right. I know you guys are invested in this, but we cannot have outbursts like this. This is being recorded, and we cannot have the applauding or cheering on the recording. Thank you. Okay, another undecided, David Morris.
Hello. Name is David Morris. I live at 12355 South Abbott Downing Way in the Carriage Hill subdivision. I also own a vacant lot in the Hunters Point subdivision. This will impact me either way. I'm undecided because I work on an ambulance and I've seen East Boise and I've seen some of their high-end housing multifamily units. And they've done a very good job. Their price point is about $400 a square foot. But the impression I'm getting from this is that this isn't going to be even close to that. This is going to be a sore thumb. It's going to be a fish out of water compared to everything around it. And I mean, I know you guys don't make decisions on ethical. I agree with what she said. You know, please do the ethical thing. I know you're not going to make the decision on that. You're going to make the decision on, well, does it meet this qualification, that qualification? So what I'm saying is, along the ethical lines, if your house was across the street, what would you do? A couple of questions. When he was up here, he didn't answer questions such as price per square foot. What is the square footage of some of these proposed houses or multifamily units? And the renderings he has is quite different than the plat. It doesn't match. So what are we going to go with? Are we going to go with the plat? Are we going to go with his artistic drawings? Is this, I know that there has to be so much low-income housing, but I mean, are you going to throw it in the middle of some of the most affluent houses in the valley? Also, when he made his presentation, he said, oh, well, we could do this, almost in a threatening tone. My question would be, when was that approved? When he says that it was approved for 8-plexes and 4-plexes, how many years ago was that? Was that? I'm sure it was before all of the development that has happened all around it. Before the Carriage Hill subdivision, the Hunters Point subdivision, the Red Hawk subdivision. Again, do the roads connect to other subdivisions? The traffic, also another consideration is there are two massive properties, acreages, that are further down Iowa, closer to Lake Lowell. When they get developed, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, you guys are basing this on today's traffic. But when those properties are developed, it's going to be outrageous.
Time's up, sir.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Please consider the property that still needs to be developed.
All righty, so now I have a list of those against. Okay. Lee Bradley.
Don't
No,
really
you-
know
you-
where to start.
You need to address us,
Okay.
sir,
I will.
and give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Lee Bradley, 114 33 Meadowbrook Drive, Nampa, Idaho. My home is in Verde Hills subdivision. It'd be, I'm right in the corner of Beaverton and Meadowbrook Drive. I watched the development start in 2017 with Carriage Hills. I can tell you from my experience, I've been there for 30 years plus. In the last 2.5 years, I have been broken into and robbed 2 different times. I have installed extensive video cameras, security units to secure my home, re-fenced it, moved everything behind the fence that I can get, and still experienced a break-in and a theft. I can't be there all the time, but fortunately, because of the video, we got them.
Good.
You know, that's the plus side. My experience in the past is exactly what we're going through right now with townhomes and everything. As the townhomes are built, they're beautiful. People move in, they're happy. The turnover becomes greater as time goes along. That is a property that typically across the board, and this is just across the board, it's well known that as that property deteriorates, it's expensive to keep up. As it deteriorates, the quality of the renters or personnel goes right along with it. And pretty soon you've got a junk car here and you've got one here. You've got too many people involved in, and the little development, the gardens and the parks and everything, all the visitors of all of those people in those townhomes are going to use that, and all, you know, they're going to be overrun with people. So, what do? You have to live with it. I'm in a subdivision that's older. And that's where now we're getting run over with four-wheelers and motorcycles and everything else running up and down the gravel where the canal was buried. I can't paint my house. Tried that. Took the paint right off the house, all the bulldozers and the dust and everything. So I am very opposed.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Leanne Sweeney.
My name is Leanne Sweeney. I live at 12844 South Orenco Way in Nampa in the Carriage Hill North development. I have some concerns about the project as it's currently proposed. Appreciate that the developer has taken some steps to move more towards what the existing area is. I just don't believe it goes quite far enough for those of us who currently live there. Given the time constraints, I'm going to limit this to just a couple of my main concerns. With regards to traffic, my concern isn't specific to the one current proposal. It is the cumulative effect of the astronomical growth that we've seen in the area of Nampa. The Carriage Hill developments, this development that's being proposed, there are some other similar sized developments in our immediate area. So it really is the cumulative effect on the traffic and the cost to maintain those roads and make improvements. My other concern is that the Nampa Police Department, in their memo in the materials that were presented online, They're currently understaffed by 40 officers and 19 staff. This project, as well as the others that are coming on the heels or thereabouts, are going to add to that. This project alone will add 1/3 of a full-time equivalent that the police department estimates to cost about $30,000 a year for the first year. My third concern would be the impact on the fire department. They provided in their memo in May 13th, they estimate about a 1/5 of a full-time equivalent, in addition to whatever the other projects that are created. They did not mention a current staffing shortfall. They did not provide any costs, but certainly there would be costs associated with that. I also thought that there was a very thoughtful analysis in the presented materials online from Compass and page 170 of the materials, with the jobs to housing balance, indicating that more jobs, not more housing, is needed in that area. A police and fire analysis indicating that this development is more than twice the recommended distance from either a fire or police station to ensure efficiency of these services. That the project is also 2 to 6 times as far from some critical services in the Compass analysis. I do think these things should be given serious consideration, not just because of this one project, but in the greater picture of all of the development. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know it's hard to cram everything you guys want to say in 3 minutes. That's why I'm saying if you agree with the person in front of you, tell me something else so that we can keep you going and get what you want to say on the record. Okay, we have some people that have signed up against that do not wish to speak, and I'm going to try not to butcher your names, but your handwriting is not as easy to read as I would like. We have, is it Ipping Stark? Did I get that right? Okay, you're against and you don't wish to speak. Okay, Rich Klein. Okay. Stephanie Bradley, we've got you on the record against. Herb Strandberg, and you don't wish to speak? Okay. Right, and we have your correspondence. Okay, then we have John Taff, who does wish to speak.
Good evening, planning and zoning all. My name is John Taff. I live at 12474 South Sunrise Mist, directly affected by this project proposal. And I don't know how to say this other than agree with the person that just said it. But if I can address the 2020 or 2040 Nampa Comprehensive Plan and look at 5.51, 5.52, that's what I experienced moving into the area. It looked like single-family residence, farmland, and beautiful wide open country. Had I known moving into the area in 2018 that the area from 55 to Greenhurst would have stick-built right at me, I would have not chosen that area to move to. I got out of the rat race to come here and die peacefully. But I don't expect 11 minutes from my fire station to get to me while I'm dying. I have a really radical view on what that property should be, but it's not the forum here to do that. I understand that the fire department has kind of said, we're out, we're doing our own thing, but it's still a city responsibility to somehow fund personnel to get a minimum of 2 stations, 12 guys, and probably another battalion to help that. And PD needs 18 people, and these numbers come up with 0.7 of a personnel. Way, way, way overdense. And I'm not against progress. I'm not against builders and that. I just don't see how a mixed use or mixed whatever fits in that community that was predominantly 5.51, maybe 5.52 density comp plan. Moving on that. Where we are here today, we're stuck at 5.53. We got to have medium density, and we got to somehow provide places for residents to move in. But as a homeowner in that community, I certainly know that we're already way strapped on the west side of the valley. Why not put a squad on the building that's there? 30 seconds remaining. All right. The city's got bigger problems, and that has nothing to do with COVID and whatever. That's because all of us came in and said, let's move to a nice place to die. And I'm sorry about that, but I came in here with the understanding that wide open spaces, I understand progress, but multifamily or duplex homes do not mix well in single-family residential. Take that 8.8 parcel, put in 25 single-family homes, and put a fire station there with a squad, and protect the entire community that you just built out with ad hoc, in my personal opinion. It doesn't go well. I'm sorry for venting, but thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Okay. Then we have Wanda Hodges as opposed and does not wish to speak. And Steve Hodges as well. Okay. Belinda McBurney, I'm sorry.
I have lived on Iowa for 16 years.
Give us your name and address
Oh, I'm
first.
sorry. Belinda McBurney, 11914 Iowa Avenue. I have lived on Iowa for 16 years. I have seen the changes, and Lord knows I have dealt with what's going on around us. That hasn't even opened up yet. The amount of traffic that that's going to generate is even more than what we've already seen. And Iowa is very busy. When I moved out there, it was very quiet, albeit the summer. We had the boats and stuff coming through for the lake. My concern is, I don't know if there was an EIR done, but we're looking, Luann did a fantastic job about police and fire, so I'm not going to go there. But public safety is a main concern, especially when you've got this building up. And the gentleman who talked about being robbed, when I moved here for good 15, 16 years, well, actually a couple of years ago is when we started locking our doors. We left them open. We left our car doors open. We didn't have we had a security system because your insurance, you know. We never said it. We do now. We have security right and left, and it's sad. It really is. And I know that growth comes. I expect that. I expected single-family homes to go in there, not townhouses. I don't believe townhouses fit. I believe they are needed. I see everything going up. It's really sad for the younger people. There are people looking for places to buy, and it's becoming unaffordable. However, that's not where townhouses need to be. They don't fit in with the neighborhood. They don't fit in. And they're going to generate more traffic on a road that is already overwhelmed. And then we also have the crime. Crime is starting to go up. I see it on Nextdoor app all the time. So we need to really, really be cognizant of all of this impact. And again, I'm not against growth. Growth comes, but we need to do more smart growth. And there's a lot of it's not going on. And that was actually farmland, all of it. And I expected to see single-family homes. Like I said, I'm not against that. But I don't believe townhomes belong there. And I believe they belong somewhere else, and there are plenty of places to build that are more suitable and won't impact the community. And I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I just need a clarification. You said IR, are you talking about independent review? Is that what that meant?
An environmental impact report?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
EIR.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, the next person opposed is William Farmer, and he says he does not wish to speak. Okay, if you want to speak, come on up.
Well, there's no stage here, so you should be okay.
Yeah.
Just to address the fact that.
Name and address for the record first.
William Farmer, 11966 West Buteo Drive.
Thank you.
And as far as fitting in, it doesn't fit in. It will be the tallest building in the area. Many of us, this is our forever home. We've worked our entire life to live here. It'll be our last. We'll be residents of Nampa for a long time. People living there may not be. So they have the tallest building in the area. Then they'll have the best view blocking our views, which we paid a premium price to live here to have these views. They're going to come in at a fraction of the price, take away our view, and that'll be the one thing we see is the taller building in the area. It'll be like a tower. It'll trump all the rest. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Okay. And then we have also opposed Gerald and Janine Butler are on the record as opposed. Also,
Someone's coming.
are you Mr. Butler? You want to testify? Okay.
I'm Gerald Butler. I live in 11728 West Buteo. And I've been watching the growth since I've been here. I've only been here the 3 years. But the elevation, like you're saying, it's going to be some taller buildings across the Iowa. It does give us a problem on the street there because it's on a hill. The road would cross right on top of that hill. It's already kind of hairy sometimes turning off of Iowa onto Hunters Point. The pictures that you showed earlier, there's a section of that the flyer showed that had been put out by the city, which now is not being showed on the drawings that were here tonight. It was highlighted, but it was redlined across that one section at the east side of the canal. So the density numbers and all of that didn't jive with what we'd read and seen before. So that's why I was in question about what's happening there. But the high-rise stuff is a little bit high, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, and then I have a big list of people who don't wish to testify, but if you change your mind, just holler at me and I will get you up here. Steve Sarton, Trish McNellis. Oh my goodness. I cannot read. Jose. Okay. Sure, come on up.
My name's Jose Gueron. I live on 11625 West Cross Lopeway. So yeah, I agree with everybody here. I mean, we have a traffic problem, right? So one thing that I just want you guys to consider is the boat problem that you mentioned in the summers. I mean, we have people flying to the lake. We also have people, I mean, we live on a golf course, right? So we have that golf course traffic as well. You know, I have a young enough daughter, and sometimes we have to like really look out because we have, you know, just a whole lot of traffic in that area. I think, you know, the addition to that with what one of the gentlemen mentioned was that, yeah, these are going to be some of the homes that maybe younger crowds come into, like myself, but they are going to be something that is going to be temporary instead of, you know, long-term homes like some of these guys. So I want to tell you guys that it would be nice to see that that you guys consider the traffic because of all the surrounding amenities that we have already. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and then we have Stephen Wright and Rhonda Wright as opposed. And then Mervyn Nelson as opposed. Carol Fredley, You're down as opposed. And then we have Rebecca Green who would like to speak.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Green. I live at 12377 South Sunrise Mist Loop in Hunters Point subdivision. The entrance to my subdivision is directly across from the proposed entrance to this subdivision. I would like to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to come and speak before you tonight. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate you listening and giving us voice. I have a few concerns before I go into those, though. I agree with everything that was said here tonight, and I would like that on the record. I do have a couple concerns about the slideshow that came up. There were some misnomers on there that are not true. Number one, Owyhee Elementary. All of my kids went to Owyhee Elementary. The intersection of Middleton and Iowa is so dangerous that they do not let students walk across that intersection. I have 3 kids that have gone to that school. I can attest to it. I drove them or they were bused. Never. There are no crosswalks. It is not a safe intersection. I'm talking kids that live less than a quarter mile away. We are using our school budget to bus across that intersection. It said that there were grocery stores and gas stations close. There is one gas station. That same gas station is used by every boat that goes to the lake all summer. It runs out of gas. It is overused. It is an awesome little quick stop in, but it is not meant for, I need groceries or I need something big. The Walmart that they're talking about that is probably closer to 2 miles away from this development is not a full Walmart. It is we call it small mart. It is teeny. It is for those quick little items you need. It is not that. They're gonna bring all these homes in. There's no banking. There's no big grocery stores. There is not the resources that these large numbers need. Other concerns, I'm not gonna go through all of them because a lot of them are addressed. I don't wanna waste your time. Traffic, that is my number one. Personally, I have been rear-ended twice trying to turn into my subdivision off Iowa Road. Luckily, the first time I just dropped all my children off and I was the only one in the car. I was stopped, waiting to turn, rear-ended by a car flying up to go to the lake at 45 miles an hour. Literally split my car in half and put me in months of medical care. This winter, once again, waiting to turn into my subdivision, luckily not going as fast, not as much damage, rear-ended again. I see accidents daily on Iowa between Midway and Middleton. With all the growth, it is not helping. Our own planning and zoning director, Rodney Ashby, told KTVB on April 13th, 2021, and I quote, "When we develop roads that are wide enough to handle the future growth we anticipate, then land use can follow. But when we build land use of significant density without having roads in place, then we are in trouble. In our area of Nampa, we are already big trouble." Last one, since I'm almost out of time, green space. We live on the golf course. Our private ways that we paid upkeep, our parks that we paid upkeep, are everything that we paid up keep. Our green space is being taken over by people in this area that are looking for green space. We have cars that come up, park in our neighborhood, let their dogs out, and turn them loose on the golf course to play and defecate. Thank you for giving me the time to speak tonight and voice my concerns.
No, please, please. Okay, Judy Farmer, you've indicated you do not wish to speak.
My name is Judy Farmer. I live at 11966 West Buteo Drive, and I agree with everything that was said here tonight. But again, I just want to reiterate that the traffic, we have the Carriage Hill West that's being built, and there's probably, 50 homes built already, but we're looking at like 400 homes going in there. And Midway and Iowa and Middleton are already just slammed, and the housing development's not even a third done. And we get, like Jose was saying, we get the golf people traffic, we get the lake traffic. We're not even in summertime yet, and we are just loaded on Iowa. And Midway, when I go to work in the morning, there didn't used to be anybody on Midway. And now, you have to wait in line on Midway, which is just ridiculous. And if you've traveled Middleton in the morning time, any of you, you know what that's like, especially at the four-way stop. Everybody's jockeying across Midway and Middleton, and now even Midland's getting packed because we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the roads. This was not thought through as far as the subdivisions that are going in, and then now we want to add more houses, now we want to add townhomes. It doesn't make sense. That's all I want to say. It just doesn't make sense. We don't have the infrastructure for it. The townhomes, again, we're in an affluent neighborhood. You know what? I can see the city lights at night. I paid a good price for this house and for this property. To have that view taken away by townhomes, again, like what my husband said, for people that are paying a third of the price of maybe what I paid for, that doesn't make sense either. So I just want to say that for the record.
Thank you. Okay. Then we have Lanaya Moore as opposed, okay. John Moore, okay. Brooke Schiller Atkinson. Okay. Gary Atkinson is also opposed. Don Davis?
Yes.
You want to speak, Don? Okay.
Thank you for your time. Don Davis, I live in 11444 West Sear in Red Hawk Ridge. I am vehemently opposed to this. I agree with everything that's been said so far. If you've ever tried to drive down Middleton, from Greenhurst to Middleton to get to 55, it's taken almost 25 minutes at times for 6 miles. Just like everybody else has said, we paid a good price. I've always wanted to live on the golf course. I bought a home there. I plan on taking me away in a Hearst. We're going to stay there. I understand everybody needs to start somewhere. You need to start our homes, but not in that area. We paid a good price. And I'm going to ask the committee, I mean, is Napa going to have any place that there is just a nice area? Or is it just are we just going to become a duplex townhouse town? I just think that it needs to be placed in a different area on 9 acres, adding approximately 100 and some odd people, 2 cars to a family. It's going to be a nightmare. And a lot of us out here, we don't have 4 or 5 or 6, 10 years to wait for the roads to get improved. I think Nampa needs to slow down, catch up with infrastructure, and then we start thinking about growing some more. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Joanna Allison as opposed. And Ben, I cannot read your last. Okay, we have you on the record as opposed as well. You'd like to speak? Come on up.
Ben Wiki, 11454 West Iowa. 2 houses away from, I'm the 2 houses away from this development. I am opposed to it. One thing that was mentioned but it wasn't in detail was the improvements to Beaverton. That's a small street and was never intended for traffic flow from anything besides that our neighborhood. And I'm afraid that people coming from the proposed location would turn and go into our neighborhood to avoid the backups that are undoubtedly going to happen trying to get out onto Iowa. And I agree with most everything that everybody else said. I happen to work in construction. I've seen a lot of townhome communities throughout the valley, and the parking, I don't know what the minimum is for the parking, but it's never enough. I mean, before the parking is full, before the communities are even done being built. So I'm afraid that the parking is gonna bleed out onto Iowa and Beaverton, and there'd be people parked on the side of Iowa with the traffic concerns we already have. That's a recipe for disaster, really. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Now your name's on here, Lee, again, so you signed up twice.
Good, I'll talk.
Talk again.
No.
Yeah, I got a lot to say. Do I get another 3 minutes?
Unfortunately, no. Okay, so then we have Julian Todd Nichols. Didn't indicate if you would like to speak or not, just as opposed. Okay.
Julie Nichols, 12390 South Carriage Hill Way. I live in the Carriage Hill, the Ridge area. I'm opposed for a lot of different reasons, but the traffic, as I'm sure all of our neighbors have experienced twice a day, is insane. Just the amount of time that it takes us to get from Carriage Hill, the Ridge, up to the freeway is almost 15 to 20 minutes. It used to be 12 minutes. I don't know if you guys have experienced that as well. A question I have is, what happens with the developers? Do they continue to own? Do they hold these properties? Are they going to continue to be the owners of these properties? Are there going to be any owner-occupied townhomes?
You're talking specifically about the townhomes?
Townhomes. That's a question I have, because I think that makes a difference in the makeup of the clientele that live there. If you own the townhome, it's a different situation than if you are a renter.
Yep, we'll ask that question of
Okay.
him when we're done with public
So-
testimony.
My other issue is the crime. I've lived there just since 2014. I'm not a super old timer, but I've experienced break-ins into my car in my driveway. Unfortunately, we had neighbors with cameras, but a neighbor across the street has also had somebody with meth going on behind their house. This didn't happen before all of the current development was going on. And so my concern is that with all of the additional development going on, we're going to have more unsavory elements coming into our neighborhood, into our lives too. So single-family homes is one thing, townhomes is a completely different animal in my opinion. I'm opposed.
Thank you. Okay. We have Kelly and John Siebelink as opposed. Do you want to speak? Okay, Jim Post would like to speak.
You won't use my name and address against my time, will you?
No.
Oh, okay. Jim Post, 11364 Iowa, Nampa. Okay, everything before, but I'm an old timer, 45 years on Iowa. So when we moved in, I think we were the 5th or 6th house west of Middleton Road. So there was no Carriage Hills, there was none of these subdivisions. We could see the Owyhees, we could see Bogus, we could see everything else. So view is important. It's all gone. And also the speed limit of the street of Iowa was 35 then, 45 years ago, is 35 now. And we don't have anywhere near that being driven. It starts at 45 and we've had over 100. I'm retired law enforcement, I can tell. And everything that the city does affects Iowa. Iowa is part of the shortcut across the county. You go from Caldwell to Highway 45. That's the shortcut across the county, and we're part of it. I don't know why they use us. Lake Lowell is 45, and yet they use us. And Beaverton is a county road, so I don't know how you're going to try to work on it, because it's a county road. In Middleton Road, they're always working on Middleton Road. Once they're done, they break it up again. Every intersection, right now, we don't have an intersection at Lone Star. Let's see. Oh, and the rent versus owning is important. Roundabouts are stupid.
Okay,
The street of Iowa is made of city street all the way to Midway. But yet we don't have any supervision of that street. The police won't come. They don't monitor fireworks. I didn't even have a warning.
oh, sorry, that one.
Oh, thank you.
It's getting late already.
They don't monitor the traffic. They don't monitor the fireworks. They don't do it. They don't respond to our calls. And even though we live in the county on Iowa, the street and all the houses around us are city, and what they do affects us. So we have a problem with the city maintaining their own property.
Thank you.
Statement. To all of you people that live out there, and I live out there also, I don't live far from any of you, the police department has a volunteer unit that is not utilized as much as it could be. If you request them to come out there with a police car, they will do that. Request the city to send an officer out there or a volunteer unit out there, and that would help to mitigate the traffic. As soon as people see a police car, they slow down.
Sorry, you guys. All right, John Beecham.
Hi, John Beecham, 12562 Beaverton Street. And I'll repeat what everybody else has said. I agree with the traffic situation and that sort of thing. The townhouses are just going to increase that much more traffic in the area and that sort of thing. I do want you to take a look at Beaverton, however. That is a county road. And I know it appears that West Black Dog Creek comes out onto Beaverton. I know the developer said he'll make improvements to Beaverton. He's talking about, on his map, 200 feet. And like someone else has already said, they are going to go down Beaverton and onto Meadowbrook and come around. That's all county road. And hopefully you've talked to he has, or someone has talked to the county about fixing those roads if we get that kind of traffic, because we've got about a ½ inch of asphalt, and they were never designed for any heavy traffic. But those are county roads, so I don't know how he's going to get that approval through the county. So other than that, I think everybody's already made quite a few points. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Kyle Arberg. You want to speak?
Hi, I'm Kyle Arberg, and I live at 12395 Landau Way. I'm about 4 houses down from the entry to this subdivision. We have a ½ acre piece of land there. Anyway, has anybody mentioned traffic at all tonight? I know they have, but I'll be more specific. Let's take 8 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning, at the corner of Iowa and Middleton with a stop sign. It's going to be a mess. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we have some online people. And I don't know if they're indicating that, if they've signed up online, that indicates they wanted to speak. Is that correct, Christy? Okay, so is Rachel Beck online? Okay, Paul Pelordi?
Hello,
Hi, give us your name and address for the record.
my name is Paul Plord, and I live at 11700 Iowa. My property borders two sides of this project, to the east and to the north in its entirety. I'm totally against it, and I'm going to try not to be emotional about it, but I agree with most of the people that have spoken tonight, all the people that have spoken tonight. My biggest problem is townhouses and the amount of people that you want to stuff into less than 9 acres. And personally, I feel like you're trying to stuff them someplace else, but I won't go there. You're talking upwards of 200 people and 100 cars, give or take. And I'm looking right at it. I've been here 5 years. I used to watch horses run across the pastures. I watch houses go up now. I put $40,000 into the outside of my house in the last 5 years. I don't know what's going to happen to my property value. I sent a letter in. I mentioned the traffic. I mentioned the infrastructure. I mentioned the retail. There's no retail around here. Like the woman said, we got a gas station and a neighborhood grocery store that's always packed. It's ridiculous. This is a rural setting of single-family homes. I'm watching hundreds of single-family homes go in. Condensed housing does not belong here. It's a rural setting. It needs to stay a rural setting. I can deal with looking at single-family homes. I've already lost my west side. Now I'm losing my north and east sides. I mean, what's the guy to do? I'm the guy that lives in the little notch on the map that's on the left-hand side. And my wife and I are just beside ourselves. If we could, we'd go. We could make some money if our sell our house and the property values haven't dropped, but where would we go? There's no place to buy. You can't get lumber. I can't go someplace and build it. Where would I go? Anyways, I'm against it. I've said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sheila Hewling? Okay. Bill Panconi?
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the commission. My name is Bill Punkany. I live with my wife and 5 kids at 12420 Landau Way, Idaho. And I'm speaking in opposition to the proposed annexation and rezone. My house is just 3 lots from Iowa Avenue and is oriented such that the new development will be directly visible from my front door. I respectfully submit that the P&Z Commission should consider the following 3 points and upon that basis deny the application. First of all, I think you've been led, commissioners, into a false dilemma. It seemed like the developer was saying, well, you could either go with duplexes or you could have R8 and 8plexes and 4plexes. That's just not true. Annexations and rezones are highly discretionary. There is no entitlement to be annexed into the city and then to build whatever that will maximize developer profits at the expense of neighboring property owners who are more invested in the community. Second, this application does not meet all the criteria for approval in the city ordinances and should be denied. And third, the P&Z Commission should protect the investment of neighboring property owners over the short-term profits sought by the developer. With regard to discretion, the P&Z Commission has the authority to deny this application. According to Idaho Code 5222, the city may, but is not required to annex qualifying property. The board can exercise its discretion in making its recommendation to the city council. You are not required to approve this application for annexation. For applications for rezone under the Nampa City Code 102-3C, an application can be denied if the specified findings cannot be made. This application does not meet the criteria for rezone and does not make sense for the annexation. With regard to the annexation, according to the staff report at page 6, which was submitted to the board, this project proposes to stretch the maximum density residential designation. This means they want to pack in more duplexes than would normally be allowed. According to page 7 of the staff report, the recommended density in the comp plan is 2.51 or 8 dwelling units per gross acre. This proposal would include a density that is 7.43 with a net density of 13.17 units per acre, well above the limits proposed by the comp plan. With regard to the rezone, this new zone is not consistent with the comprehensive plan because the proposed density is too high. The map amendment is not consistent with the comp plan because the density is too high. Just look at the neighboring developments. Quarter acre to half acre lots are the rule, not the exception. This pocket of dense development certainly appears to be spot zoning. This
30
rezone
seconds.
is not in the interest of the public, and the legislature passed House Bill 389, which limits new growth to 90% of value. This means that not only do I have to put up with all the inconvenience of higher density and development, but I also have to foot the bill and increased burden on the services. I've lived in Canyon County for the last 20 years. I left to go to graduate school. I came back because I love it here. My wife and I lived in Dallin Woods, and then we moved last year to Carriage Hill. We've made a significant investment, and we're here to stay. We have the means to live anywhere, but we chose to live here. Commissioners, I request respectfully that you deny this application, do not spot zone, and that you allow the developer only to do detached residential, which is more consistent with the neighboring properties.
Your
Thank
time
you
is
very
up.
much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Paul Haskew, are you online?
Hi, this is Paul Haskew.
Give us your name and address for the record, Paul.
Sure, Paul Haskew. My address is 12325 Landau Way. I live just down the road from where this proposed neighborhood is going in, and I don't think I have anything new to add. I do agree with all of the information that's been shared tonight, especially those who are opposed. I appreciate that growth is necessary. I'm not opposed to development on this property. What I am opposed to is townhomes being put into the middle of single-family home residential neighborhoods in the surrounding areas. I mean, I live in the more affluent part of Nampa for a reason, because I prefer it to be that way. I like to live next to golf courses and things like that. And I guess one of my biggest concerns is the higher interaction rate that comes with townhomes in regards to both police and EMS services at large. So crime rates have increased. Since I've lived here since 2013, my home's been broken into twice. I've had neighbors have their homes broken into. We had one neighbor who actually sold their house because somebody was in their home, and they felt so violated that they moved completely out of the area. So as more people are moving in, crime is increasing. And with the staff shortfall for Nampa PD, I don't see that improving. The traffic was brought up multiple times. Trying to pull out onto Iowa with a trailer behind my truck is really dangerous. And adding a neighborhood right there, right on the hill, the crest of that hill, is only going to make it more so. So again, I'm not opposed to having single-family homes put into that location. I am opposed to townhomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody present that would like to speak for the proposal? Is there anybody that would like to talk if they're undecided? Okay, anybody against? Did? I wrote in, but I would like to speak. Okay, I'm gonna go here first, then you.
Thank you. My name is Randy Evans, and I live at 707 West Arbor Point Way in Dallin Woods. People for living in the Carriage Hill area, I feel sorry for you. I really do. I came from an area a year and a half ago, out of state, to come to that area where I would feel safe and secure. Dallin Woods, I do. But now there's a subdivision going on right next to our complex where all of you, I believe last year, disapproved the townhouses and just made single units. I applaud you for that. And I request that for all these people out here, that you do the same. And Steve, when it talks about the Nampa PD volunteer, I am a volunteer. We cannot come out right away, 2-3 weeks later, because the volunteers are undermanned.
it takes that long for any type of small call. So what you said, sir, was incorrect.
No, sir, it is correct. You just have to wait till they can get out there. They can't do it instantaneously.
People, thank you very much. Oh, one more thing. My first time doing this, and I had like 50 people tell me, don't waste your time, Randy, because they already made their mind up what they're going to do. I hope to God that you aren't that way. Listen to the people who live in the area. That's a beautiful area. And I fully understand what all of you are going through.
Thank you. Okay, sir?
My name is Herb Strandberg, 11507 West Bateo Drive. I have a concern about the density of these units and how the development will be maintained. Will the landscaping be maintained by the HOA for all these homes? A lot of lawnmowers to buy for a lot of people that are looking for inexpensive homes. They won't mow their lawns or have the equipment to do it. I certainly would hope that the requirement would be the landscaper or the HOA be responsible. Street lighting. There's only 3 streets on the plat, 3 street lights on the plat drawings. There's not one out at the intersection of with Iowa, and that's a safety issue. Do they plan to put fencing in between these units? And, every 33 feet? Or is that up to the developer, individuals to do that? Again, having to do with beauty, access, things like that. And the last one is looking at the design of the homes. The the lots are about 31 feet wide, or 31 to 33 feet wide. You have 2 lots, or all the lots are side by side, but for every 2 lots, there's a duplex on it. There's a 0 line property line, and then 5 feet on each side of the duplexes, or the set of duplex. And the plan shows a driveway, looks like a 1-car driveway, or 1-car width driveway, and a 1-car width garage door. I don't know if there's 2 cars that will be parked back, bumper to bumper, in the garage, or if it's not that deep enough to only have 1 car there. Let's assume that probably 1 car covered. That puts the other car in the driveway. And then, of course, they got to shuffle cars around to get the other car out, so they'll want to try to park on the street. But there's not much distance, curb space on the street. You got to subtract the mailbox that's out there. No plans for a joint community mailbox. And required by law, the postman have to be able to get to the mailbox. So that ties up 20, 25 feet in front of every mailbox. I don't support this.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Jeff, you want to come back up and answer some questions? I've been taking notes, and hopefully you have too.
Yeah. Chair Solomon and fellow commissioners, thank you again, Jeff Hatch with Hatch Design. So we heard a range of concerns this evening, and I'll kind of try to address some and then answer any other questions that the commission has. I think the main concern, the overwhelming concern, is about density and growth in this area. A lot of folks that have been in this area and lived in this area for a long time, and regardless of the application this evening, I would really encourage review and consideration of the workshops that the city of Nampa puts on for a comprehensive plan. It was only 2 years ago that all these folks could have come and voiced this opinion and eliminated this RP zone. But that RP zone is still there. And it's something that I attended and was able to understand, the intent of that, and having incorporated mixed-use developments, mixed-income developments into Nampa. And so we feel that what we're proposing is that blend between the higher density of that RP, mixed-use residential, and the surrounding neighborhood, which really just wants single-family dwellings on this land. And so, we feel that half of the density that could be on that land is a nice compromise for that.
But it's currently county land,
Correct.
so it's not zoned anything right now within the city.
Yeah, but
So you
based
would've
on the
had to come-
comprehensive plan.
So you would have had to come before this body to ask for an RP zoning at that point, too?
Correct. Yep. There was concerns about height. And we feel that, through this application process and also having the conditional use, if that's a concern that the commission feels is appropriate, we're in favor of a condition of approval that limits that. As far as concerns for safety to children, there was a couple of jabs at the city of Nampa, and I would just like to say that growing up here, I remember riding my bike down Midland Road and then onto Locust, and there's no sidewalks, and it's 45, it's 50 miles an hour there. And to see this area around Carriage Hill be improved, the sidewalks and the areas around a lot of these newer developments, Nampa's doing a much better job and has learned over the years how to improve public amenities and public safety. So I think that's a consideration. There was concern for parking. All the proposed dwellings do have 2 parking spaces. And with that, we do have parking on both sides of the street within the development as well.
Can I ask right there on that question, on that point?
Yes, Commissioner
I
Kirkman.
think the question was, would these be tandem parking or would they be side-by-side parking?
So what we
Is there a
found,
2-car garage or 1-car garage?
there's currently proposed a mix of the two. We do have some that are 2-car garages, and then we have some that are a single car and a carport. What we found in some of these townhome developments, that having that carport option.
Hold on just a second.
I need the gallery to remain quiet, please, so we can hear his testimony.
Having the carport option allows individuals who have just one vehicle to have a guest parking space on the property, and/or it can be used as like a patio space. If the commission deems it appropriate to do 2-car garages on all of the development, we can accommodate that. That is something that we can do, but we provide a mixed use and mixed income development proposed. And so with that, we've got a mix of opportunities for parking.
So every dwelling unit that is proposed to have 1-car garage will also have the carport space?
Absolutely. On the property.
Okay.
Not impeding in the mailbox or sidewalk or anything else.
So there'll still be side-by-side parking, not tandem? All right.
Correct.
Thank you for that clarification.
Are the townhomes for rent? Currently, the subdivision is being platted, and so these can be individually sold. Consideration for having Beaverton, that road being a county road during this annexation process, we can, the commission can condition that that road be annexed with this. And that would be something that we could consider into this application as well. If, and that may be something to have engineering look at as well as a condition, but that would be something that in many annexation processes, right away is absorbed from the county, and we would be in favor of that. As far as price point for square footage, with construction costs, it's hard to pinpoint that, but I do know that versus doing 1-room studio dwellings, the intent of these are to do more of a custom home style format. So we're looking at 3 to 4 bedroom dwellings, ideally.
The townhomes will be 3 or 4 bedrooms?
Correct.
So what's the approximate square footage of those?
Approximately, give or take around the, 2,000 to, mid, like high 2,000 range.
On each side?
Correct.
Okay, so larger, okay. Is there going to be an HOA?
I think with most subdivisions, you're required to do an HOA. I can't speak to that, but will. My civil engineer is nodding yes.
Okay. And is there going to be perimeter fence or individual fencings, or what's the plan for that?
Through the subdivision process and also this process, those are conditions that can be set forth. I think the intent of the applicant right now is to do preliminary fencing, and then as the properties come online, they would do fencing as they deem appropriate.
And what's the tallest building you were planning? 2 stories or 3? What was-
Currently 2-story.
Okay. That's all I have written down. Did you guys have some more
So
questions?
there was a comment from the public about, I can't remember who the gentleman was who said it about just the landscaping, upkeeping of the landscape. Typically, it is the HOA that maintains the common property, the park and the other stuff. And these are single-family homes. Even the townhomes are single, there's a 0 lot line, but they're owned. They are for sale, somebody buys those, and they're required to maintain that property. And if the property's not maintained, then the HOA is the one that steps in and makes sure that that's done. That's how all HOAs work. So it's not the city that comes in and says, well, unless it gets to a point where the city is called for a code compliance, but typically that's how that works. So I would imagine that anyone who buys property in this project is going to maintain their lawn and their yard and make sure that that's kept up the way it should be.
And just like any other subdivision, the HOA enforces that.
Any other questions for the applicant?
There was a question that came up, and I wasn't quite sure, but I want to make sure that we get this clear. But someone had mentioned the difference between the renderings and the plat map, and that it doesn't match. Remember that question, that comment that came up? And I just jotted it down real quick.
So at this time, since we're only going through annexation, we haven't done conceptual renderings for every single one of these dwellings. Some of the conceptual renderings that we did present are what we're proposing. Other ones are of the quality that they intend to convey. And so that, some are examples and some are the actual proposed projects. Now, as far as the subdivision goes and the footprints of the buildings, the square footage of the lots, all that has been reviewed and analyzed, both by staff, our civil engineer, and us as submitting to the city. So all that stuff.
Thank you, Jeff. Or do you have more questions for Jeff?
I got a whole list.
Okay, I got questions for Daniel, so.
I was making some notes as the comments were coming forth, but
Okay.
Someone had commented about low-income housing. This is not,
No, I think right now the price point that they're anticipating is about 400,000 per
Okay.
unit.
okay. 400, in case they didn't hear, 400,000 per unit?
So every one of these dwellings, that's the anticipated price point. And the quality deemed by that price point.
Okay. I think everything else on my list has been answered.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you, Jeff. Daniel, your turn.
Oh, I got a whole 2
Thank
other
you again for
pages
your
Daniel.
consideration.
Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Streetlights, what can you tell me about streetlights?
There is an existing streetlight at the intersection of Landau and Iowa, and that's why they are not required to put a new one in at that location. So there is already one there. The streetlights that they have proposed are in compliance with our standards.
Okay, what's proximity, okay.
Can I ask an additional question on that?
Yeah.
How do you determine when the plat comes in? Is there a photometric type analysis that's done that determines how many lights, or how do you figure that in?
No, we do not have a photometric requirement for our streetlights. We require one at each intersection and every 400 feet thereafter.
Jeff, did you have questions for Daniel?
No, I didn't. Not this time.
Yeah, the rest of my question, traffic is not even, we went over that 1,000 times, so I know that your answer is going to be the same, so I'm not going to.
These properties will pay traffic impact fees. Those will go towards the projects that are needed within the area and throughout the city.
What about the county road how does that come into play with this?
So Beaverton is a county road. It is part of an existing subdivision. Based on the layout of the subdivision, it was likely originally intended to be a quarter-mile section line road where the original intent was likely for it to go all the way through to Iowa and have a road on that quarter section that went all the way north, up to Karcher. That's obviously not how the development has happened since that time that it went in. With the question of annexation of that road, the city, we could consider annexation. If we were to do such, I would think we would likely only consider annexation from either of the frontage of this subdivision or from where the road comes out south to Iowa. There was some discussion of the concern that cars would come out to Beaverton, head north along Beaverton to Meadowbrook, and then out to get to Iowa. The travel distance from that intersection north and around versus the travel distance south to Iowa and out to get to the same point is significantly less going south, and so I would not anticipate that concern would bear out. Looking at the condition of the roadway there on Beaverton, we would likely recommend that we not annex that portion until such time as the county rebuilds that section of roadway, or require the developer to rebuild the section of roadway from their intersection south to Iowa. Under either of those circumstances, we would not then oppose annexation of that portion.
Okay. All right, that's all I got, Dan. Okay, Christy, I have another question, and I don't know if you're the person to ask or what. We see in these reports, how many police, how many firemen, all these public safety things, and we're already lacking funding for what we have. How does that, how do we as stewards here make appropriate decisions with knowing that it's going to put an even bigger strain on the system?
That's an extremely good question, Madam Chair. We actually had that conversation this morning in our staff meeting. I believe that City Council has asked for those departments to do a cumulative chart or something to look at what has been approved, what's coming, and what those numbers will look like when they're added all together for the city as a whole, so that we can start looking at where their employment levels are at now and what all of this growth will do to affect those employment levels. We have it outlined in our capital improvement plan for 1 per 1,000 for the population. So if you were to look at that, I don't know what their employment level is currently, but they have been asked to provide that information to you going forward.
So really, we're just digging a hole still, though, until all that gets hashed out? Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions for staff?
Nope, but I'll move that we close public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion by Jeff, second by Matt to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed.
Well, it seems very clear to me, Madam Chair, that I frequent the lake quite a bit, but I'm going to have to change my route because I usually go down Iowa. So I'm going to have to go somewhere else because it's obviously contributing to the traffic. And traffic's always an issue that we're going to deal with. my favorite part about these, what we do up here, is listening from you guys. And the gentleman was talking about, it's not going to do any good because they've already made up your mind. That is absolutely not true for me. I listen to everything that you say. I make notes. I ask questions. I really do want input from the applicant, and I want input from you. Because we are here to serve the city, and you are the city. The residents are the city. I'm not opposed to the annexation. I'm not opposed to the zoning. My issue that I am a little bit struggling with is the conditional use. And there's things that we look at in the law when we are looking at whether or not we're going to approve a CUP, a conditional use permit. And some of those things that I've noted here is specifically in A, where it says that, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the livability of the abutting properties, the surrounding neighborhood, is it in harmony with the scale? Is it in harmony with the bulk? Is it in harmony with the surrounding neighborhoods? Is it in harmony with the neighborhood character? I'm okay. I think that this would be in harmony with the character. I think the developer would go to great lengths, and he's testified that they would make changes and they would be willing to adhere to some conditions that we might add to that. But also included in that is the generation of traffic. And I am concerned about traffic. Unfortunately, the infrastructure that we need in this city to curb the traffic problems will only come with the growth, if that makes sense. Growth will pay for itself. I mean, growth will help alleviate some of these traffic problems. We're going to grow. There's no way to stop this city from growing, unless we do what Caldwell did, but that's not on the table. It's going to grow. A couple of comments were made about the retail. There's no retail out there. There's no grocery store. Well, that didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, and I apologize if that's offensive, but that's the reason a lot of you moved out there. I mean, there's reasons why you moved out there. It's to get away from that. It's to get away from the commercial areas and the high density and so on and so on. So, hold on.
You guys, public hearing is over. You guys
had your chance. Now it's our chance to comment. And I'm just, these are my opinions, and this is where my thought process is going. So, again, the annexation, the zoning, I really don't have a problem with that, because at some point it's going to be annexed in, at some point it's going to be zoned, and at some point it's going to be built on at some point. So, but it's the conditional use permit where I am really kind of focused on, and if I'm opposed to that conditional use permit, it's based in the conclusions of law that are laid out. And that's what I was just going through, the livability, the compatibility, all of that kind of stuff. So those just some of the things that I was thinking about and made notes of.
Well, Jeff, if I could put my 2 cents worth in, I agree with you 100%. I'm not opposed to the annexation. I'm not opposed to the zoning. However, I am opposed to the conditional use permit and for the preliminary plat for this particular subdivision. So I can go with it 1/3 of the way, but not the other 2/3.
I agree. Well, I agree with Jeff. And the thing is, I see what the developer has done here in trying to make some concessions and trying to make this more palatable, right? And I think that he's done a nice job. And I would have been inclined to probably side with him because I think that he's going to do a nice job with this project. However, this is a public hearing. It's not a public talking. We do hear you. We do hear you. And it's obvious to me that we've sat here for well over an hour probably listening to everybody say, we don't want this in our neighborhood. And so because of that, I'm inclined to say no on this project.
These are always a struggle because you struggle with the rights of the property owner and the way and the right and the ability for that individual to develop that property the way they want. I think we all agree with that. I don't think we're not disagreeing with that. What makes it difficult is trying to make sure that what is being proposed is compatible with what's already there or what's proposed to be there in the future, and that's why we have the comp map and all that kind of stuff. So it is difficult, but what tilts the scale for me is you guys. It really is. Hearing the public come to these meetings and show up en masse and voice your opinions. And that's what I hear. When I make the decision, though, it's based in conclusions of law, because that's what we're required to do. So I thank you for being here.
The CUP is definitely the sticking point, for sure.
And I think that maybe the developer could, if this goes the way the developer doesn't want it to go, I'm sure maybe they can go back and maybe we can see, a neighborhood of just single-family homes. Because I think that's where some of the issues were. The traffic, we're not going to get away from the traffic unless we move to Melba. But if this was a neighborhood of maybe just single-family homes, I think that the surrounding neighborhood and community would be more amenable to it. I said my piece. Pieces.
So you had a motion in there?
Nope.
Sound like a motion in there.
Well, I wanted to ask on those three motions, separate, but the
We could approve one and deny the other two.
annexation is the first one, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So the annexation and zoning to RS6, if that's approved or recommended for approval to city council, I mean, we could approve two motions and still deny the conditional use permit, right? I mean, it's, or how are they all tied together is my
Commissioner
question.
Kirkman, so without the conditional use permit, the plat doesn't work. So
Therefore, the annexation is kind of a moot point?
I guess that's up to you. I mean, they can still bring another,
Okay.
they can bring another plan forward for you. But again, as was noted earlier, annexation is a discretionary act. So if you don't feel like it's appropriate at this time, you could deny the entire application, or you could recommend that it go on for approval to city council with just the zoning, with the RS6, which would then, if they chose to take it on to city council and not withdraw it in the meantime, it would put the RS6 zoning on that property, and then anyone coming forward after that would have to meet the requirements of that zone.
So I'll attempt a motion, if no one else has anything to say. I think it would behoove us to go ahead and I'll make a motion to approve, to recommend approval to city council for the annexation and zoning to RS6 for a single-family residential zoning district at 11544 and 11642 Iowa Avenue on an 8.88 acre portion of property for Copium Investment LLC with all conditions of staff listed in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the zoning to RS6. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
And maybe just my reasonings for that motion is that I want the developer to be able to still continue if necessary.
That's what I feel too.
Commissioner Kirkman?
Yeah.
If you're going to move on to the conditional use permit, please remember, this is a recommendation to city council as well because it's attached to an annexation. You can recommend either way,
Right.
but it's still a recommendation.
to city council. Okay,
Yes,
thank you for
correct.
that.
Where normally it's, we approve it or disapprove it.
That's correct, but when it's attached to an annexation, it goes on.
So the plat approval would be, okay, I'll just move on. So I will also move to recommend denial to city council for the conditional use permit for single-family attached 2-unit, 0 lot line structures in RS6 zoning district. Wait a minute. For Spyglass Ridge subdivision, located at 11544 and 11642 Iowa Avenue for Copium Investment LLC, with all conditions of staff, well, wouldn't be conditions. So the reason for the recommendation for denial is based on conclusions of law that this particular development, as presented and as proposed, does not, is not compatible with the surrounding areas, is not compatible with existing neighborhoods, and doesn't fit the general neighborhood character and would contribute to the generation of traffic.
Okay. Motion to deny the CUP. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's a recommendation to council.
And so the third motion, is that necessary with the plat? Okay. So at this point, I move to, it would be a denial because the CUP, I would move to deny the preliminary plat approval for Spyglass Ridge subdivision at 11,544 and 11,642 Iowa Avenue for 48 single-family attached lots, 14 single-family detached residential lots, and 17 common areas for a gross, for Copium Investment LLC with the conditions, and it was a recommendation for denial.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded to deny the plat. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so this is going to go on to council with our recommendations, and there will be a public hearing there unless the applicant withdraws that and wants to come back with a different plan. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, let you guys leave the gallery. Yeah. Yeah, will you close that door, pretty please? Okay, do we have the applicant for action item number 3, East Canyon Elementary?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, online, yay. Okay. We are ready.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Thank you for being patient with all our prior item.
Yes, of course. Okay. Are you seeing a slideshow?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the commission. I'm Kristen McNeil with the Land Group located at 462 East Shore Drive in Eagle, 83616. I'm here representing Valley View School District number 139. And this application is for a parcel where East Canyon Elementary School is located. And we are requesting annexation and zoning for East Canyon Elementary School. This shows a vicinity map of the area. The school is located along Northside Boulevard, and to the south of the potential future extension of Spruce Street. The purpose of this annexation is for connection to municipal utilities. The anticipated timeline right now is potentially this year in 2021, connecting to city water for domestic service. And then future phases where water loop hydrants, dedicated fire service to the building, and then later a sanitary sewer connection once a pathway for sewer is available, along with future development to the east. No other planned improvements. There's no other planned improvements at this time. The parcel is within the City of Nampa's area of impact and will serve the surrounding communities planned for development. A pathway of annexation is available from the east and south and west. We are proposing RS7 zoning, which is compatible with Nampa's comprehensive future land use map of medium density residential designation, and also compatible with the surrounding parcels, as you can see in the zoning map. Schools are a permitted use within the RS7 zoning designation. So in summary, our application includes annexation and zoning to RS7. And we have read the staff report and agree with the analysis and the conditions of approval. And with that, we respectfully request your recommendation of approval tonight, and we'll stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Rodney.
All right, Madam Chair and Commissioners.
You broke it.
I think it might be the applicants.
Yeah, volume is still on.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Madam Chair and Commissioners, the applicant did a really good job of summarizing a lot of what I was going to review with you, so I can go through this pretty quickly. It's an existing school wanting to connect to utilities. Pretty simple. Our comp plan allows this designation. It's actually identified on the comp plan as education, public administration, healthcare, and other institutions. So really pretty simple. Zoning in the area is RS7. Utilities are available to the property. There's the annexation codes, applicable regulations for zoning, the land uses and minimum requirements for development of single-family developments is there. As she stated, this is a permitted use. The comments in your packet are just summarized here. From engineering, building has their standard comment about Title IV, but they did say that a commercial tenant improvement permit will be required to install reduced pressure backflow devices on each domestic water line where water lines enter each building. So that would be a proposed condition of approval. Fiscal impact analysis, as I mentioned earlier, this is a school, it's not going to be contributing to property taxes, but in the context of the needs of the community, we have approved schools before.
The city didn't go bankrupt.
Correct. And really, there was a correction on the comments from the engineering division. There was a 25-foot chamfer they had it as northwest. It should have been southeast corner for the intersection. So that's been corrected, and they provided a new drawing with the correct information on it. Oh, and there it is. Okay. And here's the recommended, or excuse me, potential motions for annexation and zoning to RMH. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Just more of a curiosity, how old is East Canyon Elementary? Do you know, Rodney, or the applicant, if she's still on?
I don't know the answer to that.
She doesn't know, okay.
Yeah. And it looks like my title didn't get changed, but the actual motion on the screen is correct to RS7 rather than RMH.
Okay, do we have anybody, we signed up, Daniel? Come on, we're back to normal stuff. You got to get back in routine.
I
Rodney,
don't think there was anybody signed up.
is there any other improvements? I think she said there was no other improvements besides just hooking up to the utilities. But does that include fire? Is it already a fire-protected building?
I would assume so. That's with a school.
It's a school, it would have to be.
She said something about the hydrant lines coming through or looping through or something?
We have backflow.
Backflow?
Just walking around.
That's backflow for the domestic side of things. The fire system, when they make that connection, they will be required to have backflow prevention on that as well. The subdivisions that are surrounding it, that are going in now, have brought the domestic water out there and made this available, and will soon have sewer in a location that provides it to the school as well.
We have nobody signed up on the sign-in sheets. Anybody here want to testify on this matter? Okay, I would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Okay, moved by Steve, seconded by Adam to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. Motions are on the board.
Madam Chair, I make the motion we recommend to the approval of the annexation and zoning to RS7 zoning district for East Canyon Elementary at 18408 Northside Boulevard in order to connect the school to utility services. For Kristen McNeil, the land group representing Valley View School District number 139.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, public hearing item number 4 for the plat approval for the Smith Townhomes. Thanks for your patience going through all that other stuff.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick.
With townhomes, so I hope that doesn't,
Yeah.
or anything.
I was going to say, I hope we wouldn't have to hear townhome again tonight.
Matteo Echeverria, 5873 South Orchid Way, Boise, Idaho. I'm representing Trifecta Development. This is the proposed structure that we want to put on the plat. Yes, they're townhouses. This is the location. We feel it's, close to downtown Nampa, near schools, other amenities. I know there's a park and a pool right there nearby as well. A little bit of description about the project. And I have some pictures in the next coming slides, but we want to do 20 single-family residential lots. The subdivision is going to be made up of 7 duplexes and 2 triplex buildings. Units will range 1,400 to 1,600 square foot, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath. All units will have a single-car garage with storage as well in the garage. And we're offering parking on the site, 2 parallel parking spots, in additional to 3 90-degree parking spots. And there's driveway parking and street parking at the extension of Smith as well. A little drawing of the proposed civil plans and plat. You can see the parking there towards the west side. This shows the landscape plan. We have about 35,800 square feet of green space. We feel that it provides a community feel for the residences, and that equals about 48% of the total land use there. We plan to do full landscape on all buildings, front yard, backyard, as well as a 6-foot cedar fence at the perimeter of the project. Building heights for reference, also window. I believe we're well below the 35-foot allowance for the current zoning. We aim to replace the vacant lot with the community, and we believe leads to a benefit for all parties. The housing provides property tax revenue for the city. The horizontal improvements will loop the water together from adjacent subdivisions. This will result in increased water pressure for surrounding communities. The increased pressure will also improve fire flow protection in surrounded areas. We feel the project serves as an aid to the current housing crisis and is the best use scenario for the now vacant lot. We have some plans done. This is the first floor. It shows single-car garage, open living space for kitchen, living room, and a half bath downstairs. That one didn't format correctly, but there's a master bedroom with a master walk-in closet, double vanity. We're trying to apply to a family scenario for these units. We're working on a HOA. I have Gary Davis on that, and that's going to be all-inclusive HOA agreement with landscapes, snow removal, and any utilities that we need under that as well. And that's all I have.
It's going to mow the lawn for all the units, or will they have to mow their own lawn?
That's really undecided. I think we're open to either way.
Okay. Any questions?
Rentals or they ownership product?
Ownership.
Yep.
Yeah, we plan on selling each individual unit. I'm also the builder. I plan on seeing it through, not just a quick flip deal till the end. So.
A good project at a good location, so thank you for Phil.
I appreciate it.
Jeff?
I'm looking at a map here, and it looks like Smith Avenue just ends right there at the property. Is that going to be continued by you, or is that already gone through? And will that be private? Will that be?
Yes, I already dedicated a 30-foot right-of-way there, and those improvements will be at my expenses, from my understanding.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, we have some people signed up.
Madam Chair,
Oh, staff.
Parker needs to present.
Gosh, Parker, my brain is like checked out after that last one.
Moving ahead quickly.
don't think Parker was signed up, that's why he's not.
Parker's like, whatever, I'm done. He just explained so good that I just figured, all right.
Yeah, there'll probably be a few things that we'll need to cover.
Okay.
Rezoning it from RS6 to RD. They are townhomes. The property is in the city, medium-density residential, which fits that RD requested zoning. The surrounding zoning, it's all single-family homes. There's duplexes to the south of this property. That's Nampa Housing Authority. Some history on this. It's been through a few different developers that building permits have never been issued, either for duplexes or townhomes. That's been in 2007, 2008, and then 2016. And then the most recent one being this one.
And those building permits weren't issued just because the developer backed out on it or whatever?
Commissioner, I believe the issue has been the right-of-way, the payment to bring those utilities out to these properties and improving the right-of-way. Utility emergency services can be made available. It's 1.8 miles from Fire Station 1. 6-minute response time. Closest police department is 1.7 miles. This is the same area as the first public hearing item that we had. Same general area. It's an aerial photo if we want to reference back to that. I won't cover the conclusions of law since we've already been over that. Applicable regulations, both 2-unit zero lot line and 3 to 4 unit zero lot lines are permitted in the RD zone. The one important thing to note is that the bottom one, 10.10.2 B6, overall property area, width, coverage, and yard requirements for buildings shall be the same as for buildings under single ownership. So when we consider the plat, the requirements are going to be not on the individual lots, but the lots that the entire building sits on. So looking at the plat, overall site is 1.61 acres. There's 20 individual lots with 0 common lots. This is the landscape plan that was proposed. Correspondence, Nampa Building Department, regular requirements there. Nampa School District as well, regular comments. Development of sidewalks, street lighting. The engineering division had some missing information on the preliminary plat that will be part of the conditions of approval that those get worked out. They also recommended that a walkway access be provided on at least one side of the shared private drive aisle. And I don't believe that last one was part of the conditions. It wasn't part of engineering's recommended conditions, so if you'd like that, that would have to be added. It's a staff analysis. 0 lot line buildings are permitted. There's single-family homes around it with a duplex, 3 duplex buildings to the south. Covering, as I stated before, the lot requirements apply to the entire building, not to the individual lots themselves. The future land use map has it designated as medium density residential, and the RD zoning fits within that. Within that designation, it recommends 2.51 to 8 dwelling units an acre, whereas this proposes a gross density of 12.42. Which exceeds that recommended amount. The Nampa, we determined that it's in the public interest to provide a variety of housing. Safe routes to school, Nampa High School, 1.8 miles, Lone Star Middle School is 1.3, and Willow Creek Elementary is 1.6. So as far as the master lots, they all exceed the 7,000 square foot requirement, the smallest being 7,005 square feet. Lot averaging doesn't apply in this case, nor does lot compatibility. All the lots meet the width and depth for the buildings, 30-foot requirement for right-of-way. The landscape plan was approved with some required revisions that are in the conditions. And there's no open space or pathways proposed. These are the conditions in your staff report. And here's a potential motion for the rezone and then the plat. And this is a preliminary plat, not a short plat.
Any questions for Parker? Okay, now we go to public. Okay, for the proposal, Mike Lovett.
I'm Mike Levitt, 300 Smith Avenue. The developers agreed to put fencing up, so I'm good with it. I don't know if some of you remember me last time in 2016 when they tried to do that, and the developer didn't want to put the fence up. I don't have a problem with it. I'm affected more than anybody. It affects the whole length of my property. All the construction material is going to go through my front yard, which is all good for me. I don't have a problem with that. The developer seems to be real concerned with everybody wanting to be okay with it. So that's about all I have to say.
You're the end house, right, where it dead ends, correct?
Yeah, I'm right there, yep. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, and we have Matteo on here, so you're for, but we've already heard from you. And then we have Kelsey Cavallo, who is in favor but doesn't wish to speak, unless you want to change your mind. Okay. And that's all we have. Anybody else here want to testify on this? Anybody online? I have Ted Burke signed up. Is Ted?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm the civil engineer for the job, so I would say I'm in favor of it.
I guess that's good. Can you give us your name and address for the record, Ted?
Yeah. My name is Ted Burke. I live at 902 North 19th Street in Boise, Idaho.
Thank you. And all right, I'd entertain a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Okay, moved by Steve, second by Jeff to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. I think it's,
I think Adam's getting ready to make the motion.
it sounds like it's a better plan than what we had.
I'll make it. I think this is a good project.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing it before us. Madam Chair, I move to recommend the approval of the zoning map amendment from RS6 to RD, zoning district for Smith Townhomes at 0336 and 322 Smith for a gross density of 12.42 and a net density of 14.84 for Mateo, representing Trifecta Development with all conditions listed in the staff report.
Add that one condition that was recommended by engineering that wasn't in the staff.
It's the sidewalks on well, at least one side of the street.
Okay, plus the sidewalks on at least one side of the street.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, second motion.
Madam Chair, I move to recommend approval of the preliminary plat approval for Smith Townhomes at 0336 and 322 Smith. See, for 20 single-family, zero lot line attached lots for a gross density of 12.42, a net density of 14.84 for trifecta development with all conditions listed in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Public hearing number 5, conditional use permit for a hospice. Your wait is over. Yay!
Everybody's been looking for a place to die. Well, I know they all left before
We've
we came to
solved
say
everyone's
anything.
problems. There's a place to die.
I know. So I'm Dr. Louise Yi Liu, and this is Lene Hetland. So we're opening a hospice.
Address.
Oh, sorry, 601 Blaine Avenue.
Okay.
So we're asking to open a hospice and assisted living in the building that we purchased. It's a 10-bed where we're going to help, patients, give them 24-hour care and allow patients to die at peace, have their family, surrounding them, and just give them 24-hour care when needed.
And it's a residential building right now.
What was it before?
It was an assisted living, it was
Okay.
licensed as an
As a
assisted
assisted
living
living.
already, so,
remember that
yeah.
not so long ago.
It was
It's just
operating as
disabled-
that, yeah.
Disabled home, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, we'll hear from staff, and then we'll see who wants to have testimony. I didn't forget Parker this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Conditional use permit, assisted living facility, up to 10 beds, RS6 district. It's a .23 acre lot, park to the north, RS6, homes to the south. To the east is St. Paul's Catholic Church and School. Most of that is vacant right now. History, it was annexed in 2001, rezoned to RMH, was withdrawn in 2007. And what you remember most recently, CUP for temporary cancer housing was approved in last year. It does require a conditional use permit because it's over 9 beds in our use chart. The conditions, conclusions of law, I won't cover as that's been covered tonight already. Development is titled to Subject 4. Building department will require that they get a certificate of occupancy and final inspection to complete the approval process for occupancy. Same requirements from the police department. Engineering stated that if planning and zoning department determines additional parking is needed, then they would need to apply for a site improvement permit and submit appropriate documentation for review. Staff analysis, the surrounding land uses are residential with a church to the east. It's determined it would have a limited impact on those surrounding land uses. It brings a desired service to the area, sufficient parking spaces in the amount of, this is from our parking, off-street parking chapter code. 1 per 5 beds plus 1 per regular employee need to be provided off-street. If they're removing trees to create the additional parking, staff would recommend that additional trees be added to maintain the minimum of 2 trees on the property. And those conditions are in the potential conditions of approval, as well as the additional ones that you would like to add. And here's a motion for you. I'll stand for any questions.
Didn't the prior owners have to remove the trees to make the parking? Did they not ever, they didn't follow through with that the first time?
The lot is the same as it was before.
So they must not have opened and done anything, is what my assumption is then.
Yeah.
They've been remodeling it, Peggy. Madam Chair, they've been remodeling it. I think that there is 3 parking spaces there now, right? Because you have the 2-car driveway and then they've got another concrete pad that's poured up.
Okay.
So there's 2 parking spaces in the garage, and then there's 2 more here to the left. We also have handicap parking directly on the driveway as well.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to testify? Okay. I'd entertain a motion to close public hearing.
Seconds.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed.
Madam Chair, if there's nobody who wants to talk about this, I make the motion that we approve the conditional use permit for a hospice and assisted living facility for up to 10 beds in an RS6 zoning district at 601 Blaine Avenue in the northwest quarter of Section 20, so on and so forth for, oh boy, Lena? Lanai? Last name? Hetland. Representing Hepburn and Wolverine LLC with all conditions of staff and conditions of law.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the conditional use permit. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it looks like Karen may have won the bet.
What was the bid?
She said 952.